What if the very act of pushing ourselves harder sometimes makes things worse? This isn't just a modern struggle. Dostoevsky explored this tension in the 19th century, and his insights are still strikingly relevant today. The weight of struggle. Dostoevsky endured immense hardship, imprisonment, loss, illness, and came to understand that true growth doesn't stem from sheer force of will, it comes from embracing the tension between suffering and meaning. Pain and suffering are always inevitable for a large intelligence and a deep heart. Struggle often feels like a punishment, something to escape, avoid, or curse, but Dostoevsky saw it differently. For him, struggle was not just a condition of life, it was its proving ground. He believed that through pain, the soul is refined, and through hardship we are forced to confront the deepest questions. What do I value? What am I made of? Most of us spend our days avoiding discomfort, but there are moments, whether it's emotional pain, failure, or fatigue, when life won't let us run. In those moments we have two choices, to resist and grow bitter, or to accept the burden and ask what it can teach us. The weight we carry is not just heaviness, it is meaning in disguise. Carrying the weight builds character, just like lifting resistance builds muscle, it sharpens our awareness, strips away illusion, and forces us to pay attention to what matters. On an ordinary day, this might mean choosing not to numb out with distraction. It might mean staying present through an uncomfortable conversation, or facing the fear of failure and still taking action. When we stop seeing struggle as an enemy and start viewing it as a mirror, we unlock a quiet form of power, the kind that isn't loud or boastful, but grounded and unshakable. Dostoevsky's life was marked by suffering, but he transmuted it into literature that has outlived empires. There's the possibility hidden in every difficult moment, not just to survive it, but to use it as raw material for something lasting. What weight are you carrying today, and how might it be shaping you into something stronger, wiser, and more awake? Falling apart to find purpose. Many of his characters collapse under pressure. Raskolnikov's guilt, the underground man's isolation, but Dostoevsky suggests that, in breaking, we often uncover our most powerful truths. Sometimes the lowest point becomes the springboard to purpose. There are moments when everything seems to unravel, our plans collapse, our confidence shatters, and the identity we built begins to dissolve. In those moments we feel lost, defeated, maybe even broken. But what if this falling apart isn't the end, but a kind of beginning? Dostoevsky believed that breakdown often precedes breakthrough. In Notes from Underground, the narrator is a fragmented soul, but even in his despair there's clarity, there's honesty, there's the beginning of truth. When life strips us of our illusions, of control, perfection, invincibility, it also offers us a rare invitation, the chance to rebuild, not as who we think we should be, but as who we truly are. This doesn't mean suffering is noble or desirable. It means that when the cracks appear, we have an opportunity to look deeper. The pieces scattered on the ground aren't just debris, they are fragments of what we can become. Sometimes the version of ourselves we've been clinging to isn't built to carry us forward. Letting that version fall may be the most honest, courageous act we can take. In daily life, this might look like accepting that a relationship has run its course, or admitting that burnout isn't weakness, but a signal to shift. It could mean walking away from a job that pays the bills but starves the soul. These aren't failures. They are signs that something in you is outgrowing the shell you've been living in. To fall apart is not to be ruined, it is to be rewritten. And in that rewriting, there is purpose, there is rebirth, there is a path not back to what you were, but forward to what you were always meant to become. Why giving up isn't failure. It reminds us that surrendering can be a powerful choice. Letting go of unrealistic expectations, especially during doubt or despair, can open space for transformation. True strength lies not in resisting everything, but in choosing what's worth resisting. We often confuse persistence with strength, believing that to keep going, no matter what, is always the noble path. But Dostoevsky understood that clinging to something out of fear, pride, or habit can be more damaging than letting go. In his novel, some of the most profound moments of growth happen when a character surrenders, not out of weakness, but out of awakening. There is a kind of courage in saying, "This is no longer right for me." It's a bravery to walk away from what is safe but hollow, familiar but untrue. Letting go is not the same as failure. It can be the first act of self-respect. To give up on a path that is draining your spirit is not quitting life. It's choosing a different way to live it. In daily life, this might mean stepping back from a toxic friendship, shelving a project that no longer aligns with your heart, or simply resting when the world insists you keep grinding. In these acts, you are not giving up on your future. You are giving up on illusions, on expectations that were never truly yours. Dostoevsky's characters often wrestle with this inner reckoning. The act of surrender becomes the seat of transformation. The underground man's confession, Raskolnikov's breakdown, even Ivan Karamazov's defiance, they show us that giving up illusions is the first step toward truth. Sometimes the greatest strength lies not in enduring more, but in choosing less noise, less pretense, less self-betrayal. So if you feel like letting go, ask yourself, am I giving up, or am I finally choosing myself? Because not all endings are failures, some are freedom dressed in disguise. Faith, freedom, and responsibility. For Dostoevsky, the greatest freedom comes when we choose to act responsibly, rooted in empathy, love, faith, even when life feels absurd or overwhelming. Find what you believe in and let it guide you when everything else falls away. Freedom is often misunderstood. We tend to think of it as doing whatever we want, cutting loose, avoiding rules, answering to no one. But Dostoevsky knew better. He saw that true freedom isn't about escape, it's about commitment. It's not the absence of responsibility, but the conscious acceptance of it. In The Brothers Karamazov, he warns that when people are handed absolute freedom, without deeper meaning or moral grounding, they often fall into despair. Why? Because without something greater to live for, freedom becomes a void, an unbearable weight. We're free to choose anything, but with that comes the burden of choosing well. Faith, in Dostoevsky's view, isn't blind belief. It's trust in the value of being good, even when it costs you. It's believing that love, compassion, and moral responsibility aren't weaknesses, but the very things that give our freedom purpose. In everyday life, this might look like standing up for someone even if no one else does, or showing integrity at work when shortcuts are easier, or keeping your word to yourself when no one's watching. These aren't grand gestures, they are quiet, daily affirmations of who you are choosing to be. Freedom without responsibility can lead to chaos or apathy, but when we anchor our choices in something meaningful, faith in values and love and truth, we become more than just reactors to life. We become creators of it. So the question becomes, what will you do with your freedom? Because every decision is a brush stroke, and over time they paint the portrait of your soul, let it be one you're proud of. Next time you're grinding and feel stuck, pause, ask, what if this very pushing is holding me back? Reflect on whether you're resisting something important or chasing a false ideal. Choose one small act of care toward yourself or someone else to realign with what matters. When life feels heavy, our first instinct is often to push harder, to solve, to fix, to conquer. But Dostoevsky invites us to pause, to not react with force, but with awareness. Often, the answers we seek aren't found in more effort, but in deeper reflection. It starts with a simple question. Is this struggle helping me grow or is it keeping me stuck? Not all resistance is productive. Sometimes we're clinging to expectations, perfection, or pride. Other times we're chasing goals that no longer belong to us. The discomfort isn't a sign of failure, it's a signal to pay attention. This doesn't mean we abandon responsibility or discipline. It means we bring intention to our actions. When you feel overwhelmed, don't just grind harder. Step back, breathe, ask yourself, what really matters right now? Real strength lies in knowing what to release and what to carry. Dostoevsky would urge us to start small, acts of presence, of kindness, of self-awareness. You don't need to rebuild your life overnight. Sometimes purpose is restored in the smallest of choices, making your bed, turning off your phone for an hour, forgiving someone who won't apologize. These choices reconnect you with your own agency, not the illusion of control, but the freedom to respond with grace, with thought, with courage. Remember, the goal isn't to avoid hardship, but to navigate it wisely. Life won't always make sense, but within the chaos you still have the power to choose your next step. So today, take one deliberate action, not because you're trying to fix everything, but because you are choosing to stay awake in your own life. And that, as Dostoevsky might say, is where the soul begins to live again. Dostoevsky teaches that true power isn't about constant force, it's about knowing when to pause, when to bend, and when to choose purpose again. In our moments of collapse, new meaning awaits. So, what did Dostoevsky teach us? That suffering isn't always a curse, it can be the beginning of transformation, that falling apart isn't failure, it's a chance to rebuild with purpose, and that real freedom isn't found in escaping responsibility, but in choosing to live with meaning, even when it hurts. If you've been wondering whether to keep pushing or to pause, maybe the real question is, what is this moment trying to teach you? Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment where letting go led you to something better? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I read every one. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear it today. And before you go, there's another video waiting for you at the end of this one. It dives even deeper into the hidden layers of the human condition, the kind of truth we don't talk about often, but feel every day. Click it now, your next insight might be one click away.